Uswatul Muslima presents Story Time. Nazir and the Neighbors. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nazir was a little boy who was not just naughty, he was very naughty. He lived in a complex with lots and lots of neighbors, and he loved to trouble them and make them angry. When he would do something naughty and make the neighbors angry, then he would find it very funny and laugh. In fact, he would laugh so much that even his tummy would start to pain. One day, Nazir had an idea. His neighbor, Uncle Dawood, had a nice, sparkling swimming pool. Every day, when Uncle Dawood would come home from work, he would get into his pool and enjoy a quick swim. Nazir got onto his bicycle, took a bucket, and rode to the river. There at the river, he managed to find some big, green, slimy frogs. He put the frogs into his bucket and then returned home. Then, while Uncle Dawood was still at work, he went into his yard and put all the frogs into his pool. That evening, when Uncle Dawood jumped into the pool, he got the fright of his life. There were slimy frogs swimming around him. He knew that naughty Nazir must be the one who was to blame, so he shouted, "Nazir, I'm going to tell your father." Nazir thought that it was very funny, and he couldn't stop laughing. The next day, Nazir had another idea. Uncle Yaqub lived next door, and he would wake up early every morning, get into his car, and leave for work. That night, after Isha Salah, Nazir went into Uncle Yaqub's yard and let all the air out of his car's tires. The next morning, when Uncle Yaqub came out of his home, he saw that all his tires were flat. Now he would have to pump them, and that would make him late for work. He was so angry that his face turned red, and he shouted, "Nazir, I'm going to tell your father." On the third day, Nazir had a big idea. He was going to trouble all the neighbors at once. Nazir went quietly from yard to yard, visiting everybody's washing lines. Then he switched all the neighbors' clothes around. He took Uncle Dawood's wet socks from the washing line and switched them with Uncle Ahmad's socks. And he switched baby Muhammad's grower with baby Jamila's grower, and Auntie Nasira's burqa with Auntie Zahra's burqa. That evening, when they were going through their laundry, everyone was confused. Uncle Ahmad put the socks on and shouted, "Hey, these aren't my socks. These socks have holes in them." In the same way, Auntie Nasira was complaining about the burqa, saying, "It doesn't fit me. It's as big as a bedsheet." Finally, they all realized someone very naughty had switched their clothing on the washing line, and that very naughty someone was Nazir. By the end of the week, all the neighbors came and complained to Nazir's parents. They called him and asked him, "Nazir, why do you trouble all the neighbors?" Nazir replied, "Because it's so funny. You should have seen Uncle Dawood's face when he was in the pool with the frogs." Nazir's father corrected him and said, "That is not funny, Nazir. Troubling people is not a joke. It is not permissible, and you will get sin." How can you laugh when you are making Allah Ta'ala angry? When Nazir heard this, he stopped laughing and became silent. Nazir's mother explained, Nazir, Islam teaches us that the neighbors are very important people. A Muslim should not trouble any person, but troubling the neighbor is even more serious. That is why we must always make sure that we do not trouble the neighbors in any way. Don't you see that when we have a braai, we make sure that we send some meat for our neighbors as well, in case they smell the food and were feeling for it. We do this to keep them happy. Nazir thought about this, and then he said, but the other people whose clothes I switched, they aren't our neighbors. They don't live next door. His father replied, it is not only the people who live next door who are our neighbors, Nazir. All the people who live close to us are our neighbors, so we must be good to all of them and must not trouble them. Now Nazir understood, and he felt very bad over his naughty behavior. The next day, Nazir's mother baked choc-chip cookies and put them into small gift bags. Then Nazir went to each neighbor's house, gave them the cookies, and told them that he was sorry for what he had done, and promised that he would not trouble them again. In fact, now that Nazir knew how important neighbors were, he became the most helpful neighbor in his complex. He would help Uncle Yaqub to wash his car, help Uncle Dawood to clean his pool, and even helped other neighbors to hang their washing on the line. In this way, Nazir became a good neighbor, and everyone was happy with him. From this story, we learn that a Muslim must never trouble any person, especially the neighbor, because neighbors are very important people. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded us to be good to our neighbors. We must therefore try to be helpful to all our neighbors. Also, our neighbors are not only the people who live in the houses next door. All the people who live close to us are our neighbors. We must try to be good to all these people. We also learn that if we trouble anybody, we must tell them that we are sorry and ask them to forgive us. If we can, we must give them a small present as well, so that they become happy with us. And finally, troubling people and making them angry is not funny. If somebody is being troubled or is angry, then we should not laugh at them. The end.